Thank you. That's all right. It's going to be a good afternoon. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming along to see our demonstration this afternoon. As Sean said, my name's Melanie Ryan. I have the pleasure of doing quite a bit of work for Cadbury in the Cadbury kitchens. And I want to share with you a couple of recipes over the next half hour, 40 minutes, that are from a book that we put out early this year. I don't know how many of you might have a copy of this book. It was released in November in Coles stores around Australia. How many people were able to pick up a copy of it? Oh dear. Well, I would like to just show you, it's a beautiful book with chocolate in every recipe in combination with Philadelphia cream cheeses. And if you would like a copy of the recipes that I'm doing today, you can purchase a copy of the book at the Cadbury tent, just one tent over after the demonstration. Anyway, lots and lots of beautiful Cadbury recipes in there for you. The first recipe I want to show you today is a white chocolate bistro cheesecake, and it's going to have pine nuts on the top and an apricot glaze, and it's using Cadbury white chocolate melts. So I'll tell you a little bit more about the Cadbury baking range in a minute. I've got 3 blocks of Philadelphia in here and some caster sugar, and I just need some power. We'll get the show on the road. Here we go. Okay, this is a baked cheesecake. You can have a baked cheesecake or a set cheesecake, and either of the any of the Cadbury chocolates will be good, whether it's a baked cheesecake or a set cheesecake. We just need to get the filling nice and soft and combined with the sugar, and then we'll add the chocolate to it. The Cadbury baking chocolate range is available in all your supermarkets, and there's a dark chocolate, a milk chocolate and a white chocolate. You can buy it in block, in melts and in chips. And the reason I'm using melts today is because they're a nice even size, and that makes melting chocolate a bit easier if you've got even sized pieces of chocolate, so that you don't have little bits that melt before large pieces. So that's what we're doing there. There's a couple of different ways that you can melt our baking chocolate. Whichever way you go, it needs to be nice and gentle. You can do it in the microwave, or you can do it in a bowl over gently simmering water, but just keep it away from the water. I've already melted it today, and I did it in the microwave. When you do it in the microwave, you need a microwave-proof container. And one of the advantages of doing it in the microwave, if you use a plastic dish rather than a glass dish, make sure it's really clean. You don't want any moisture in there, because moisture with chocolate can make it seize. So a nice clean plastic container, and using only half power. So with half power, it means that it's less likely to get too hot. If it gets too hot, you'll have to start again. Anyway, so half power for a minute with a bag of the melts, and I've ended up with beautiful melted chocolate. And by not overcooking it, you keep it nice and shiny, and when you're resetting it, it will have a great crisp to it as well. Into the filly that we've got here, I'm just going to add 3 eggs and let them get in there. When you're involved in that, mixed into that, when you're doing a baked cheesecake, it's good to get everything well incorporated, but if you overbeat it, you'll fill the mixture with air, and then when it goes into the oven, it'll puff up like a balloon and then sink when it goes cold, and then it's more likely to crack. So by doing it gently, you'll end up with a really good result. And get those eggs in there, and the melted chocolate. Are you all cheesecake bakers? There's a few people. Cheesecake eaters? Yeah? That's good. It's not hard to make at all. So here's my melted white chocolate. And it's a good one to do something like this for an event like New Year's Eve or something like that, because you can have it done well ahead of time, and in fact it gives it a chance for the flavours to develop. It's really nice. What I'm adding into this is some sour cream, and that works really nicely against the white chocolate. So that's a whole tub of that in there. I'll just let that finish. And I'll tell you about the crust that I've already made here. You might not be able to see inside the dish. I've lined the springform pan so that it's going to be easy to get out, and I've also put the paper up quite high, and that's going to stop it from burning. In the base there are some just regular biscuit crumbs and some butter that I've melted together. If you feel like making it a little bit more your own recipe, you could put some spice in there, or you could put some ground nuts in there, replace say 1/4 cup of the biscuit crumbs and put them into the base, and then you just spread it all out and press it in with a spoon and pop it in the fridge until you're ready. All right, here we go. Oops, oh, I did a good job there. I'm glad I didn't decorate anyone down there in the front row. All right, I'll put that into there. How good does that look? I think it looks pretty good already. And if I was at home, I think I'd probably be handing out the beaters in the kitchen, but I can't do that today. I'd have arguments. There's too many of you today. Just have to try it out yourself. So just spread that out. And a different topping we're using for this cheesecake is pine nuts. Now, pine nuts you might have had plenty of times in savoury dishes, but they're also really nice in biscuits, and on this they're going to give it a nice crunch on the top of the cheesecake. You don't need to toast them first because they'll end up beautiful and golden from the oven, and you just sprinkle those all around on the top of it. You could also use flaked almonds if you prefer, or you could put macadamia nuts on it. When this is finished, we'll just finish it off with some apricot jam, but if you're doing macadamia nuts, maybe instead of the apricot jam you could drizzle some honey over the top of it. Your beautiful Tasmanian honey that I'm sure there must be a honey stall somewhere around Taste of Tasmania, is there? I haven't had a chance to look around, is there? Someone's got their nice Tasmanian honey? No? All right, so that goes into the oven, and you can put a little dish of water in the oven as well, just something small, a small bowl of water, and that'll just help with a bit of steam and make the cheesecake beautiful when it's finished. When it's finished, and I won't be able to cook that one off today, but when it's finished, turn the oven off and leave the door open a little bit and leave it overnight, and that's going to help it cool down very gently, and that also reduces the chance of cracks in the top of your cheesecake. And then when you're ready to serve it, I've just got some melted apricot jam, and you can brush that over the top of it. Perhaps it's not quite so melted anymore, but you get the idea. And there's your beautiful cheesecake. If it's a homemade apricot jam and it's got lots of pieces of fruit in it, just give it a little sieve once you've finished melting it, and that will take out the pieces of fruit, and that'll be the chef's treat, I think. So that's our white chocolate bistro cheesecake with the pine nuts and the apricot glaze, and you'll find the recipe for that in the copy of Simply Heaven Chocolate. Okay, I imagine that a lot of you have had macarons. Some of you have probably also had macaroons, and macarons are a French biscuit, and they come in pairs and they're joined together with a lovely little cream. Macaroons is a more old-fashioned style of biscuit, very similar, made with egg whites and coconut. And macarons are made usually with a ground nut, and we're making them with ground almonds today. We're making chocolate chai macarons, and the macaron is a French confection or biscuit, if you like, and it's, a macaron is when you have the two sandwiched together, and it's another biscuit recipe out of Simply Heaven, so you can find that there if you'd like to make it at home. I've already ground up in the food processor some almonds, some cocoa, and some sugar. I've also put in there the ingredients from, or the tea leaves from a chai tea bag to give it a nice flavour. Chai is an Indian style of tea, and you can also have it in your coffee, have a chai latte. Usually it's got a combination of spices with cinnamon and ginger, maybe cardamom or star anise. And that's just got one tea bag in there. When you've finished, if there's any lumps in there, any pieces of almond, just sift those out. I know in craft kitchens and Cadbury kitchens, we've got a couple of food processors. Some of them work a little bit better than another, and sometimes there's a few pieces of almonds that you need to sift out. To make these chocolate, we've got the Cadbury Bourneville cocoa, and this is a taste that everybody's grown up with, I think. Everyone knows the flavour of Bourneville cocoa. It's a Dutch processed cocoa, and that Dutch processing means that it's going to have a nice dark colour and a strong flavour. So that's the cocoa in there. That's how we begin with the macarons. I'll just get my beaters all fixed up again. Oh, wrong way. It's actually a double chocolate hit with the macarons. Has anyone made macarons before? You've tasted them? How many people have tasted macarons? Lots of people. You can get all different flavours now, and ours is a simple base with almonds, but people do them with pistachio nuts. They make them all different colours, and you can buy special powdered food colours to put in when you're making them, or powdered flavours. Our flavours today, as I said, are the cocoa and the chai tea. What we need to do with these is beat up a whole lot of egg whites, 3 egg whites I should say, not a whole lot, but 3 egg whites. And at the start we just put a little bit of salt in there, and that's just going to help to stabilise it. And when you're beating your egg whites, you need to make sure that they're in a nice clean bowl. If there's any fat in the bowl or any food from last time you're cooking, you may not be able to make your nice egg white foam. I'll let that go a while. I want that to be fairly firm before I start. I've lost my saucepan today, so I can't make the ganache. I have already got some ganache, so I'll be able to show you what it ends up like, but I can't find my saucepan, so I'll have to tell you about the ganache that goes into the centre of the macarons. It's a really simple thing. It's made with dark chocolate melts and with some cream. Now, ganache is something that you can use to ice a cake, and you can have it nice and runny so you can pour it over like a sachet torte and get a really nice glaze, or you can have it firmer and use it to make truffles. In this case, we want it so we can pipe it into the centre of the macarons. So when you're making ganache, the way we've described it in the recipe is to combine some cream with some chocolate and gently melt them together. If you're making macarons for adults and you want to flavour it with a little bit of alcohol, then you can put a little bit of alcohol in at the very beginning and melt the 3 things all together. Don't add the liqueur or whatever you're using halfway through, because then it's going to be like adding water to chocolate, and then you'll end up with it seizing. The other way to make ganache is to just scald some cream in a saucepan, turn it off, and then with your chocolate in a bowl, just pour the cream over it, and that heat of the scalded cream will melt the chocolate. And you can just combine it, put it into the fridge and let it chill to the consistency that you want. And ganache recipes vary depending on what you're going to do with them. Whether you want to pipe it or spread it, you may use more or less cream to get the result that you want. So that's the dark melts, and I will show you the ganache. And if you haven't found a saucepan under your seat, and I'm sure it's not under your seat, I'll be able to show you how that works. Anyway, here's our egg whites. Okay, they're not they're a little bit sliding in the bowl, so we might just give that a little bit further. I suppose you've all seen people tip them up over their head. I'm not going to do that today, but it's an indication that they're firm enough and ready to go on. Okay, let's see how they are now. Oh, that looks pretty good. So you can see it's not moving at all. And to that, and I've lost that too, my sugar, I'll just get some sugar. Okay, so I've packed all of this. I've come down from Melbourne, so Trish and I, and Trish isn't here today, but we'll be back tomorrow. We've packed everything and sent it over before Christmas, which seems like quite a while ago now, so we're working out of bags. Okay, you put the caster sugar in and just a little bit at a time to dissolve it. And it's a funny sort of process making a macaron because you're incorporating lots of air, but then you want to get rid of the air to a certain extent. I think that's enough. Okay. What we're going to do there is just fold some of the dry mixture into the egg whites. This is sort of conditioning the egg whites, so you can be fairly rough with it at this stage and just stir it in, and that's going to loosen it off a bit, and then we're going to fold the rest of it in. Right. All right. And you can see it's quite a bit of mixture that's going in there. Okay. Need to make sure it's all combined. You lose a bit of air as you're doing this, but that's okay with the macarons because we're not sort of making big meringues. We'd end up with pavlovas otherwise. We want to make the little biscuits. I think that's just about all of it in there. And we'll fill a piping bag and pipe that. If you haven't got piping bags at home, you can use snap lock bags. They also make really good piping bags and just snip the end off. If you do a lot of cooking, these disposable ones are great, but also you can buy nice proper cloth ones too. And this is where the fun comes in. Squeeze out the air at the top of the bag and then squash it down with your hands and twist it up. And you can keep the pressure on with your hands. Now, in theory, I'm going to pipe 3 centimetre little macarons. We'll see how we go. And if you hold your piping bag straight over the top of it and squeeze, and it'll come out. If you're on a bit of an angle, you might end up with slightly less round macarons, but that's not the end of the world, I don't think. So you get the idea with that. And these can be made ahead of time as well. Oh, I think I've struck a bit of almond, so that might be the sign of where I'm going to stop. I've just got them on a bit of baking paper, and that's stuck down with some butter. It's a good idea when you've piped your tray just to give it a bit of a bang on the bench, and you'll get rid of any bubbles. And what you need to do then is to let it sit for about 20 minutes and you get like a skin on the top of the macaron. So do these and let them sit in your kitchen, and you'll just have to wait until you see that skin. Obviously there's no skin at the moment, but you'll see that the surface of it changes. But in true demonstration form, I've got some that we made earlier, quite a bit earlier, and some ganache, excuse me. And I might add, you can make ganache with any chocolate that you like. So if you, whichever one you like, we've gone for dark chocolate here so we get a lovely contrast with the colour of the macarons. But you can use white or milk chocolate, whichever you like. And your ganache will sit in the fridge quite comfortably for a good few days. It's sort of limited by the use-by date on your cream, really. Now I'll fill up the bag. Just while I'm getting this ready, has anyone got any questions about cooking with chocolate that I can answer? Yeah. You can certainly spoon them. That's not a problem. It's just going to be a little bit harder to get a really uniform shape. But one of the things that I've done in the past is just to get someone, or it was me, but to trace little circles on a piece of glad bake, and then you can put it underneath another piece of glad bake and pipe, slide it out, put it under another one, and then you've got a guide. So yes, certainly doing it with a spoon is not a problem either. If you get any little tips on the top of it, just damp your finger and pop it down. Sometimes the mixture comes out and it's like a little hat, so you can just tap it down. But, pardon? Yeah, just so it doesn't stick. Yeah, so. All right, same with the piping bag. And we're just... Yeah, it's just at the right consistency. Oh, except I put the lid on upside down. Dear, oh dear. Oh, well, never mind. That can be our centrepiece, can't it? And the same thing when you're piping a rosette of the ganache, or whether it's buttercream on a cupcake, just hold your piping bag up straight at right angles to whatever it is you're piping. And you get beautiful rosettes. Well, I just heard, for those of you who didn't hear, someone down the front, one of my chocolate lovers down the front's just asked, actually today, you can't taste what I've made up here, but we've been in touch, before we came down, we were in touch with a lovely baker in Hobart, and he's made a whole lot of macarons using our recipe, and at the end of the demonstration, you'll all be able to have a taste. So that will be nice. So there you are. You get the idea. Of course, you can flavour them however you like, and you can see of the macarons we made before we stopped for Christmas. I've got a bit of a variety of size there, but I don't think it's going to affect how they taste. They're also nice to pipe individually like this and pop around the bottom of a cake as a different sort of decoration. You know, just line them up on the sides of the base of your cake. That works really nicely too. If you wanted to use this to make truffles, what you would do is just to pipe a log on a tray and put it back in the fridge, and then when it's cold, cut it with a knife so you get little even-sized pieces, roll it in your hands, and then chill it again, and then you can dip them into melted chocolate. So just the way I was talking to you about melting chocolate today, you can roll your ganache in that into the melted chocolate and then let it set. And if you melt it carefully like that, all our baking chocolates will firm up again at room temperature, although having a truffle centre with the ganache, you will need to chill it at the end of it. But anyway, that's lots of things you can do with chocolate. So whether you get hold of the book or whether you sign up on the website, we're always putting on lots of new recipes. Every month we like to put new recipes on for all our chocolate lovers, and we'd be happy to hear from you also on our Facebook site. Has anyone else got any more questions? Any other questions? No? Okay, I'd like to thank you all for your attention this afternoon, and I hope I've given you some inspiration of things you can do with chocolate, and hang about, because shortly we'll be able to give you all a macaron to taste. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.